I call this July 1st millage hearing to order. I'm honored that we're hosting this Board of Education meeting in the Instructional Support Center and excited to announce that sessions will be streamed on the OCS YouTube channel. This enhancement will enable our community to watch as we engage in discussions and decisions that shape our school district and as we celebrate our students and staff. Next on our agenda is the purpose of the hearing. Mr. Adams.
Good afternoon, board members and Dr. Branch. I want to remind everyone the purpose of the hearing. The board approved the final expenditure budget and tentatively adopted a millage of 15 mills at the June 10th board meeting. With the release of the final tax digest, Oconee County Schools recommends a millage rate of 14.25 mills, which is a decrease of 0.75 mills from last year's millage rate. The law requires the millage rate to be advertised as a property tax increase as a result of the assessed values of the property in our county being greater than it was a year ago. In order not to advertise an increase, the millage rate would be no more than 13.934 mills. The board is required to hold 3 hearings for the purpose of listening to the public on any thoughts they may have on this matter. The first one was this morning at 10 a.m., the second hearing is now, and the third hearing is on July 8th at 6 p.m. The final adoption of the millage rate the board deems appropriate will be at the July 8th board meeting at 7 p.m. On the screen, you will see our budget calendar. The board tentatively adopted the budget on May 13th. I also want to remind the board that the required budget hearings were held on May 22nd and June 3rd, prior to the final adoption on June 10th. Some of the budget highlights for fiscal year 25 include a 4% salary improvement for all OCS teachers and staff, salary steps creations for years 22 through 30, health insurance employer contribution, 19 new positions, new curriculum, teacher retirement employer contribution, and a one-time custodian supplement of $1,000. The budget presentation, budget calendar, and budget documents are posted on Simly with the corresponding meeting dates mentioned earlier. These are also available at the check-in tonight, and we have some copies in the back row of this meeting room available for anybody who's interested in taking one of those. The June 10th approved budget document is also posted on the school district website, along with the final tax digest and hearing notice. The hearing dates and times have been posted on the school district website, social media accounts, and in the legal organ. An updated budget that reflects anticipated revenue based on the final tax digest and recommended millage rate of 14.25 mills is shown for your consideration. I want to make a note here is to please note that at 14.25 mills, our estimated unassigned fund balance will be 17.8 million, which equates to 15.55%. Since I've been here about a little bit over a month now, I've learned that the Georgia DOE recommends about 2 months budget for operations. So with that said, you know, the best practices they have on hand would be 2 months, which would equate for us for fiscal year 25 to be 19.2 million or 16.8% of estimated unassigned fund balance. With all that said, we still recommend the 14.25 mills. Other budget information is attached to those hearings in Assembly, and advertisements have been published as required. And that concludes my explanation of the hearing, unless there are any questions.
Thank you. Next on our agenda is public communication. Mr. Colquitt.
Thank you, Ms. Argo. Good evening, board members. We have 4 citizens signed up. Before I bring them forward, I'll read this. The board allows 3 minutes for those who sign up at the meeting. You must be a current resident of Oconee County to address the board. Please state your name, address, and topic. The board requests that you refrain from making any disparaging remarks about school system personnel. Generally, there will be no response to comments or questions posed by citizens at the meeting. All comments and questions will be received and taken under advisement by the board. However, any member of the board shall be free to respond and make public comments if he or she elects to do so. Our first citizen is Laura King.
Welcome.
Thank you. My name is Laura King, and I live at 1201 Cherokee Circle, Athens, Georgia. I've been here about 12 years, and I'm not well-versed on the budget at all this year. The reason I'm here is because I have looked over the bond issue of a few years ago. There are some concerns. I'm a CPA, and I'm a certified forensic examiner. The concerns of that budget were that there's a serious, possibly, mischaracterization of current assets or assets and liabilities. And also, there's a very large pension obligation. And full disclosure, I'm part of the TRS, teacher retirement system, so I want a solvent system. And Mr. Ransom, you said you'd get back to me. You told me that you thought that was a obligation for the entire state, but I don't think so. I think it's just for this county. So the reason that I'm commenting is because I've got 28 or 29 years with the state. I'm good. But there are many people behind me that are not in this position. They, if you're a 10 to 20 year, or let's say less than 20, definitely less than 10 year vested person, I don't know how this is going to continue because the spending seems to go up and the enrollment seems to be going down. And at some point, I don't think citizens are going to stand for it. And I feel bad for the people who are going to be dependent on the teacher retirement system because when the public puts their foot down, that's it, you know? It's not happening right now, but who knows what the tipping point will be. And so those are my concerns that, you know, I've been a teacher coming along. I had relied on that system. And I feel like that we're just ignoring a freight train that's coming. It's probably not just this county. It's probably all over the place. Another concern is that it looks like the sales tax, and I'm not sure people understood what they voted for when they voted the sales tax in, because the bond, it looks like to me, was predicated on property taxes. I think people, when they vote for the 1% sales tax, they don't understand they're voting for a bond that can outlive the sales tax. And so there's a concern here, and I'm thinking that Mr. Burgess is pretty astute, that he understands the sales tax will be over before the bond is paid off. So then I don't know what the course of action is. Do you pass another sales tax and try to sell it to residents that we're not going to really do anything with this money, we're just going to continue to pay for the pre-existing bond? So these are just issues that I see. You know, I think maybe people could rock along another year or two, but at some point, the rubber's going to meet the road. And I know that the enrollment issue is being masked over by the 75 students allowed to come into the county from outside the county. But other counties may want their students back. I just don't know. So good luck.
Thank you.
Our next speaker is Sherry Long.
I have nothing to say. Laura has signed me up. No, I'm not going to talk about that today.
Our next citizen is Pam Hendricks.
Welcome again.
Thank you. I'm just very frustrated because the county saw fit to roll back the millage and not raise the taxes. City of Watkinsville did. But the school system is the one system that needs to raise property taxes by 2.27%. Now, it's less than last year, but it's still an increase. And yet, and then there's the big thing of your own numbers say that we're going to have 232 fewer students. So I wanted to make you a graphic. Enrollment is going down, but yet This year, you're wanting to spend $7,547,081 more. And I can't understand that. I can't. Then I think you're being very disingenuous about this unassigned fund. You are sitting on 40 million in unassigned funds. Now, you've broken it up into these three tranches. Committed fund balance, 14,800,000. Assigned fund balance, $5,958,646. And that's where you're saying, oh, we're a little over our own policy of having a reserve fund of 10 to 15%. We're at 16.7%. And I just think it's disingenuous. You are way over your own policy of having 10 to 15% because you are sitting on, and then remember this morning I pointed out that it drives me crazy, and so I did a deep dive, and I want to offer this to you and to the new CFO. I looked at all the adjoining counties, and I looked at Oglethorpe, I looked at Greene County, I looked at Walton County, I looked at Barrow County, I looked at Morgan County, and I looked at Athens-Clarke County. And the one thing, as I said this morning, everybody has the revenue equal the expenditures. That's how you budget. And then they also showed the estimated fund balance as a separate. But that seems to be common here. You have more revenue coming in than expenditures, which means that really the surplus, the unbudgeted amount is higher than you're acknowledging. So, and I wanted to particularly say that Barrow County seems to do a really nice job, and they show the actual amount, the original budget amount, the revised budget amount. I really encourage you to look at Barrow County and how they do their budgeting. Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next citizen is Victoria Cruz.
Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you. My name is Victoria Cruz. I live at 1151 Lake Wellbrook Drive in Athens. Hello, neighbor. I would just like to say the most striking thing about coming into this building for the first time and coming into this room is that you have now put yourselves on a Diaz, which is what I see a lot of times in all of these county boards of commissions, boards of education that go online, that are on videos where they show these citizens coming up to make their comments and to put forth their grievances, and the people on the Diaz just sit there royally and regally and say, thank you very much for your comment. We're going to do what we want to do anyway. And I have a feeling that that's what's going to happen here. I'm not a budget person. I was trained in medicine, not the budget. But what I do want to say is that most people, most citizens cannot just put their own salary increases up there and fund their retirement on the backs of other people, other people's taxes. People out in the private sector, they have to rely on good performance to get their salary increases, and they have to rely on their own fiscal responsibility to fund their own retirements. Teachers have always occurred to me to be an exception to that rule. I don't disparage teachers. Teachers got me to the point where I could go to college and go to medical school. However, that was 50 years ago. What I'm seeing now, and that was in New York State. New York State had a regents program, and they separated people into the regions where you could go if you wanted to excel, and they had people in other areas where you didn't if you wanted to go into the trades. That was well established. but we were taught everything we needed to know to pass a statewide system. I think that Oconee County tells itself that it's one of the best schools in our state, and yet our state is not the best in the country. So how is that possible? How is that possible? We don't rank very high, and I didn't have time, we just flew in from vacation, didn't have time to look up the stats, but I'm going to come next week and hopefully have some numbers. Your enrollment is not going up, the expenses are going up. People out on the outside are not making money because we can't increase our own salaries. I'm on Social Security now. That's it. That's what I get. So I just want you to keep that in mind. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Argo, that concludes public communication.
Thank you. We're adjourned.